Is what is happening in the United States our fault? You, regular, average, everyday American, is this your fault?
Do Americans know they're American? I'm starting to think this obsession they have with wanting to distance themselves from their state is a cop-out. Avoid seeing themselves as part of the problem and therefore not responsible in being a part of the solution. It's very capitalist in nature, to be honest, because that's what capitalism does. It strips all of us, fractures and individualizes the notion of a state. If you are a tax-paying and consuming citizen living in the land called United States, carrying a U.S. passport, you are American. The taxes you pay and the products you buy support the United States and its domestic and foreign policies. When you meet Americans abroad, they always introduce themselves by their state or city. Always, whether they're from Arizona, San Diego, Montana, whatever, they never say USA. First of all, it's cringe. We all make fun of you guys for it. Everyone's introducing their country, but Americans think the whole world should know their states and cities. How American of you, and you all do it. Liberals abroad will make it their entire personality that they're not MAGA, and those are the bad ones, and they, the Obama lovers, they're the good ones. You guys leave the room and we laugh at you all the same. We don't say so-and-so Democrat from San Diego, you're just American. Every American you meet, no matter their ethnicity, kind of all have the same vibe. They think they're all so different from each other, but a Yank is a Yank and always has a certain way they act like it. Maybe it would help for you guys to start seeing yourselves from coast to coast as a more cohesive entity. When some of us talk about left-wing patriotism, we're not talking about Uncle Sam nationalism, but your discovery of what it means to be a country that is responsible for its land and people and actions abroad. I'm not sure this nihilist, constantly morally distancing yourself from the US while materially very much being a part of it is working out too well. It seems to be a little pacifying and performative, if I'm being honest.
I don't know if anybody else disliked that video as much as I did. Now, that's a creator that I actually follow, and I think she has plenty of good takes. I think that it's interesting to see how many people outside the United States love to tell Americans what our identity is, what our experience is, how it is that we relate to people in, you know, a geographically, ethnically, culturally, incredibly diverse, massive nation. I don't know about you all, but I have some thoughts. But I want to be positive and constructive here, because I'm not here to just shred this person for what is yet another one of these takes of like, you Americans are all the same and you don't. I from outside the country, I'm going to tell you about your identity and I'm going to tell you about what you believe. I don't think that that's helpful. I also think for people outside the country to come in and want to be like scoldy, I don't think that works. It doesn't work to help communicate your message. What it does is put people on the defensive, right? I was initially defensive when I saw this video and I didn't want to hear any of the salient points that were being made. The communication style that I think we are all prone to, and particularly this type of video is prone to, is not helpful in moving the needle in the direction in which we need it to go. But I will set aside that defensiveness and try and say, like, what was constructive about this video? So I do agree that a lot of us like to say, not my president, I didn't vote for this. I'm not one of the, 20-something% of Americans who actually voted for this madness. I'm not a fascist. I don't support Donald Trump. And I think there is an element of like, oh God, please don't associate me with that, right? I don't want any of that stink put on me. But also I think it's really important for us to communicate, we're not behind Donald Trump. We didn't vote for him. We don't support him because Trump and the Republicans and the corporate media that is overwhelmingly controlled by him and by those who financially back him, they want everyone to think that he's super popular, that Americans are down with what's happening. That is part of a fascist agenda, is to try and create an in-group and an out-group, but also trying to separate the people in the country that he is trying to oppress, right? To separate all of us from our allies around the world. So part of his mechanism for doing that is communicating to everybody outside the United States, all of my people here are with me, all of the Americans are with me, and you hate me, therefore you should hate them, right? They're all behind me, I'm super popular, I'm super powerful, and they really love and adore and support me. Part of that is a cope for the fragile narcissist who needs to believe that he's popular, but part of it is a strategic choice to try and separate us from our friends and allies. When people around the globe should have solidarity with the American resistance, Trump wants people abroad to think that we are all in We are all down with what he's doing. And therefore, they should hate all of us. They should direct all of their anger at us, the people, instead of those in power, instead of the government. Likewise, Trump wants people in the US to think that he's more popular than he is, because a fascist cannot stay in power without the consent of the governed, without the support of the people. And organized resistance is going to take him down. So he has to try and bluff to everybody that he's super popular. Part of that is just, it's just his maladaptive behaviors, and part of it is strategy. After he lost to Joe Biden, he came forward with his big lie and said, I didn't lose, I couldn't possibly lose because everybody loves me, I'm so popular, therefore the election must have been rigged. So it's important for all of us to counter that narrative with truth. But this argument that our tax dollars fund all of these horrible things that our government does, and therefore we cannot divorce the actions of the government from us, the people, this is one of the reasons that I'm constantly using this phrase, our taxpayer dollars, American taxpayer dollars. I get criticism for that because people say, all you care about is how much money you're paying in taxes. You're trying to make this about your money and how your money is wasted. No, I'm trying to communicate that our government is using us, our labor, our life hours, our money to do terrible things. We are involuntarily complicit in what is happening. Our resources are being used to do terrible things. And if we don't like that, then we had better fucking do something about it. That's why I'm constantly talking about our taxpayer dollars. Our taxpayer dollars are going to fund a genocide in Israel. Our taxpayer dollars are going to fund ethnic cleansing and terror within our borders. Our taxpayer dollars are going to fund the destruction of our wild spaces, of our natural resources. Like, our taxpayer dollars are being used for harm and exploitation. They are using us. They're using our labor to do bad things. So if we are opposed to the terrible things that are happening, then we are obligated to organize to stop it. Because they could not do these terrible things if it were not for our money. They could not do these terrible things if they were not able to take that money from us and commit these atrocities, fund these atrocities. I do think it is important to have an American identity. I also think that you're all just Yanks and we're laughing at you behind the scenes. I think that this creator is venting her upset, right? Because our government does terrible things in our name. I don't think that this framing is helpful. I don't think that this video as a whole is helpful in doing anything other than, easing the distress and providing some comfort for people outside the United States who just want to be mad at us, right? I don't think that it helps us understand our responsibility, our duty in all of this. I put out a video earlier today talking about the difference between our rights as individuals. Capitalism, our hyper-individualistic society, tells us to focus on our rights, our wants, our needs, our personal fulfillment, and we don't tend to think about our duty to each other, or we don't think about our obligation to pursue justice, our obligation to make America work, right? If we are passive, if we are cynical, if we are nihilistic, if we are lazy, and we let other folks control the levers of power and use our taxpayer dollars to do harm, then we shoulder some of that responsibility. But this creator's video overall, I don't think that it was trying to help fix anything. I think it was much more about easing their distress, and the people who are going to enjoy that video are other people who want to be mad at us and want to fall for Trump's propaganda that the American people are terrible and that it is the rest of the world versus us. No, it's not. We are allies in this fight. But I don't really want us to be defensive or upset at that video. I want us to think about what is our role in enabling Trump and the Republicans. How is it that we have a duty and obligation to use our resources, to use our position as American citizens to try and stop this madness, to try and stop the role of American imperialism around the world in inflicting harm and suffering? Because to some extent, while our government has been oppressing us, particularly folks who are not wealthy white men, has been oppressing all of us for the entire existence of this nation, right? They have used us to inflict that harm and that oppression around the world as well, and people are not happy about it. We have agency and we can enact change. And as an encouragement here at the end, what that creator said about everybody outside the US laughing at us when we leave the room, that's not true. We have friends and allies everywhere who are supporting us in resistance.